welcome once again to Senior Focus. I'm your host, Bill Adams. Senior Focus is a show designed for older adults, people over the age of, say, 50 or so, like myself, and we hope to bring you information that you can use in your daily life and also information about the history of our area. Before we get started, I want to say thanks to Greg Roten from Armstrong's Channel 20 and 100. Greg brings you the show every month, or a couple times a month. And also the Public Library of Youngstown and Mahoning County. They let us use the beautiful Austintown Senior, I almost said Senior Center, Austintown Library. We've also been to other branches of the library system, but thanks to them. Today's show is going to be a discussion with Pat Ungaro. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you.
Pat, of course, is the former mayor of Youngstown, and currently he is a township administrator, part-time.
Part-time, yeah.
And we're going to get into retirement or not retirement, and again, a lot of interesting stories, I hope, about Pat's life. So why don't we just start with where you're at now and what you're doing.
I'm at Liberty right now. I'm actually working for free now because I officially did retire June 1st, and I can't be rehired again until October 1st. Mm-hmm. When I come back, I'll be putting a few hours maybe every day or a few hours every week, mostly working on development, which I feel is starting to really work in Liberty now. We're starting to get a lot of businesses starting to come, and a lot of them are interested. So I mostly do that when I'm there, but it'll be part-time.
Right, and one of the things we want to make sure we mention about Liberty, you have a senior watch program.
Great program.
And we'll talk about that. I know we had, and you guys were the first, and then we had the police chief from Boardman. They just started up a program recently, but the hope is maybe this would spread to other areas.
And it's starting to, and what we did was we tried to computerize every senior that we have, especially those that live alone.
Right.
And we have it organized where certain people in our township call every day that person to see how they're doing, what they need. And if they don't answer the phone after several tries, then the police department or the fire department go there. And they have a key to get in each house. And many times the person is sick. And it helps keep tabs of that population in Liberty. And Liberty at one time was a young, thriving community.
Sure. Yeah.
But like everywhere else, it's now pretty much a retired community. And we have the second highest poverty in Trumbull County, but it's not because people were poor, they're just older now.
Oh, okay. And so you've got people who, we were talking a little before the show, who maybe have outlived their relatives, or they had children that moved out of town.
Yeah, so, that's the whole focus. The people that are alone, that really responsible families take care of the elderly or their mother or father.
Right.
Some families don't do that for a lot of reasons. Maybe it's attitude, maybe they moved on, maybe they live in another community, maybe they die too.
Right.
And we like to keep tabs with those people to make sure we touch base with them every day, 7 days a week.
Well, that's really neat. I mean, I'm sure that's really appreciated by the people.
They love it. Then we have a breakfast. We invite them all in, and we get them fire alarm things in their house, different things. We take care of them
throughout the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about retirement or not retirement.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have the philosophy, and there's no right or wrong, I guess, but I hit retirement age. I'm going to the golf course.
Yeah.
I'm going to Florida. You'll never see me again, kind of thing. But that's not what you.
I don't golf. I don't really have any hobbies. Never did. I was always pretty busy. I did retire after I left as mayor after 14 years. That was a long run for mayor. I think the second was 8 years. It was the worst experience of my life. I mean, it was
you mean retirement or being mayor?
No,
retirement.
Believe it or not, it was worse than being mayor.
That's hard to believe.
I know it is. At that time, that was probably the roughest time in our history.
But it was tough being retired.
Yeah, it was like a Corvette going 150 miles an hour. Then all of a sudden, it's over.
Yeah.
And I recognized my wife after a long time, and I just didn't really have anything to do. I tried different things. It lasted maybe a year. I went back into education. I was principal before I became mayor, and I was a substitute principal at West Elementary School, which I liked. I never was on an elementary level. And then that led to Liberty. And that came up. They came after me, and they talked to me, and I took the job. I've been there now 14 years.
And with Liberty, again, as an administrator, you're overseeing basically all the different departments.
Yeah, I have department heads 2 or 3 times a week. We're not that big, but you make sure you're touching base with what are the problems, what are the needs in each department, police, fire, and road primarily, and you try to solve those problems. If it's personnel, if there's grievances, I handle all of those things, even on a part-time basis.
Right.
And we've had budgetary problems when the state started taking money away. We didn't have enough growth to compensate for that.
Right.
But we're doing really good right now, so I think we're going to be fine.
Well, what about, like from this point, we're in 2017, so the economic development, what is it in this area that you think maybe could be done to attract more development, or what is it that people are looking for, like, these companies that are looking to relocate?
I really had, in fact, when I think of the 4 or 5 things I accomplished, and I'm kind of writing about some of those and some of the dynamics of how do you start things. We had steel mills here. They were all empty when I became mayor. We lost 50,000 jobs. I finally got them to tear them down. Got the property, developed the property with a lot of incentives. At that time, we weren't doing incentives here. Incentives are the key. Right. Controlling the property was the key. Salt Springs Road, right? As you come into Austintown, that whole area, all those jobs there, we brought in here within a couple of years, I mean. One of the problems that I ran into with all the subsidies, giving them free land, tax abatements, waiving fees, but we filled it up in 2 years, which is unheard of for an industrial park. One of the problems I confronted was our image.
Oh, right.
Our mafia image, our militant labor image. Over the years, the strikes that have taken place, with the steel mills, with the auto workers, and the mafia. In fact, Toys R Us did a study. Most people won't want to hear this, or maybe they want to. Maybe they want to believe it. They did a study. We got them up there as a distribution center in Salt Spring Road. They had a study done and said, if you have anywhere else to go, go. Don't go to Youngstown, because the mob controls just about all the public officials, and they control the unions. And
this is the company's own study.
This was their study they did about Youngstown, and that got around. And it was hard to change that image from that. I said, well, who's shaking who down here? I'm giving you free land, 10-year tax abatement, waiving all fees. Right. And you're talking about the mob. I said, I think you're shaking me down. And they laughed, and they came in, and we were competing with Cleveland and several other places. So that was a tough image. When you go from those kind of wages to the lower wages, and then you have those kind of reputational problems, it was hard to overcome all that, but we did. And I was really kind of proud of that, too.
Well, and you brought up at the beginning about doing a book, or you just talked a little bit about that. Can you talk about that process, or what are you planning on doing?
Here's what I've done so far, and I don't know how far it's going to go. I may just say I had enough of it. I have my catharsis, and it's over with, and I'm moving on. But there are so many things that I could talk about being mayor, and the biggest challenge I had was obviously the 50,000 jobs lost in steel mills, but the next biggest thing, and maybe even the first thing, was the mob stuff. The mafia, pretty much, they were very active in my church. They were active in every part of our community. And it isn't that you're talking to a mobster guy. They control a lot of legitimate public people, lawyers, doctors. Now, I'm not trying to brand everybody as a mobster, but you have to have legitimate people to talk for you, to do your work. That's how you get the power. And if you're a mayor, they got to control you if they want to control the police department, all the departments. And by the way, it may be a $150 million budget. Everybody talks about the mob and how much they make with the bug, and that was like a common thing, the gambling. But a city budget is like gold mine. If you
Right.
control, you got a lot. One quick story on that, and I'll get off of it. If
sure.
you pay $5 million for 4 inches of asphalt, you go out, bid, you give a company the bid, and if they put 2 inches down of asphalt, they just made $2.5 million. If they only put half of the asphalt down, but you're paying for the full amount.
The full amount, right.
But the book is, I got a computer, and this isn't like I'm looking to make money on it or a bestseller. This is for me.
Right.
If you talk into your Apple phone, it gets onto your computer. I'm set up for that.
Well, that's
and
good
then
to
from
know.
there it goes to the printer.
Okay.
So I've already started that process, and I'm talking about my experiences when I was young and I was running for council. I was a head football coach at Ray at that time, and then I discovered there was a mafia out there that was interested in me because I looked like maybe to them the next Microsoft. You know, you want to get Microsoft when it starts,
Right, low,
to make
yeah.
all the money out of it. They make investments in young politicians because you're pretty stupid. You don't really know what's going on.
Right.
And that's when I realized who was coming to see me all the time. They would pull in my driveway. A lot of times just legitimate people, but legitimate people with the mobsters.
Right.
And my wife would be watching me at the door, you know, and I'd say, keep an eye on me. And then there was the Calamar. Once you get in office, you got to go to Wednesday night to the Calamar and get your spaghetti dinner. And who knows what else goes on.
Right.
That was bugged. These are all things that are public.
Oh, sure, sure.
But those kind of experiences with bidding out, with contracts, the politics of I was really an independent. I wasn't close to the Democrat Party. I felt they were contaminated at that time as well, and I didn't want to be involved in that. Even though I'm a Democrat, I was an independent Democrat. And my experiences with that, with people with money, and how everybody tries to control you. But I won spending $5,000, and I didn't need anybody. And I wasn't interested in money. You know, if money made me the happiest guy in the world, maybe I would have been, but I'm not. And money is health. It's all about health.
Right,
especially as you age, isn't
Right.
it, money? So,
Right.
And those kind of experiences, the political experiences with the party, Don Hanai, who was the chairman at that time, experiences with all the public officials, many of which went to prison.
Yeah.
There was at least, judges, prosecutors,
Oh,
sheriffs.
several, yeah. Multiple,
Yeah, and beside the mobsters. And the intimidation that comes with that. I went to Washington Senator Nunn had an organized crime public meeting. I was the first mayor ever to go there, and it wasn't good press, but to say what I thought was happening in Youngstown.
Right.
And it needed special attention. Eventually, we did get it.
The FBI company.
Yeah, they came in, the whole strike force came in. Wellington, who was my police chief, we visited Washington a couple times to talk about some of the stuff. Those experiences, I kind of want to get down. Maybe it's just for me. I don't care if no one reads it, but
Right. Well, but it's important to know about because,
Yeah.
you know, you hope, again, the whole thing about learning history is you don't repeat the mistakes
Right.
of what's happened in the past, or you learn. Yeah.
And that was what it was all about. I mean,
Right.
I gave them nothing. I got no money from them. I'm not saying I'm the only mayor in history who did it. I don't know. I don't want to even talk about anybody else. I know what I did. Being Italian, I was sensitive to these people, and I didn't give them any respect as far as I want your dough. You know,
Right.
I always was pissed off. They spend their money, they make their money here, and then they go to New Orleans and build casinos.
Right.
They don't do nothing here but
Yeah,
take
but-
money, and a lot of people love them. I mean, they were popular in churches and.
Well, and again, I'm just thinking about one of the stories, and we won't go. You know, I don't want you to, but stories of how you'd go to churches and or people affiliated with the church would pass money and things like that.
Well, they always tried that with me.
Well, we're tried to. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
saying you
they
took the
are.
money, but they they
You don't
offer.
bug churches.
But-
you can't
but-
bug a church, so you can meet in churches.
So what would happen though is, and that's always frustrated me, is you'd have these folks who were again doing illegal activities, but they would like a Robin Hood kind of thing. They'd buy something for the church or for the hospital or for
You
the
hit
school.
it. I think if
And
you watch your Godfather, it's almost the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
I mean, it's true. If churches have a lot of influence, whatever religion it is.
Right.
And if you have do a lot of favors for them, then when it comes time, you do a favor for those people. It may be going to a grand jury, speaking on behalf of somebody.
Right.
It may be as simple as that. But I was invited to luncheons, and the whole mob was there. I look at them and I kind of chuckle and I say, you know what? I'm sure the FBI is right outside right now. I'm going to wave when I leave, but I don't want nothing to do with this. I'm not Elliot Ness. I want to be left alone. I'm not interested in any money, and I would leave. And that's kind of how I handled those things. But you know, those are safe areas where you can have meetings sometimes in the basement of a church.
Right. Now, besides going to Washington, I remember you also went to was it Palermo? Was that the group that?
I didn't go there.
Oh, you weren't.
I couldn't make it. Yeah, there was other people. John Reed Powers.
Right, like local
local
citizens
people that
who were,
did a great job. And they were very courageous.
Right, and that was trying to get at, again, learning about the root of the problem, which, you know, was over in Italy, and how it got the start. And, I mean, they were dealing with the same thing we were.
Right. In fact, other communities do it too. Go to Cleveland or Pittsburgh. They fought for control of Youngstown. During my term as mayor, we had eight or nine killings during that period.
Oh, boy.
And there was the trafficking thing that caused a lot of confusion. And I knew these people. Some of them I grew up with. That's why I don't want to really use names. I had friends, relatives, that were doing favors for these people, maybe making money, and they were supposed to contact me. They were the ones that said, you know, you better be careful, you're screwing with. They were the ones that were passive-aggressive in their intimidation with me. And I can't even say what I told them, but that was over with. I didn't get any. I was concerned. I didn't have my kids in the car with me when I started in the morning.
Oh, boy.
And not that someone said they were going to blow me up, but I just was concerned.
Right, it's possible, you know.
Yeah.
Based on history and what
I know
happened to other people. So
I did get one thing that happened that's an interesting story. In fact, I was with Judge Evans in a restaurant downtown, and we were leaving at lunchtime, and someone came up to me with a brown bag and said, "Your name's on this." I said, "I don't know." I went back to the office and put it on. It was a tape, and it would look like a car in a desert. And the wind, you could hear the wind, and the sand was fluffing around. Then all of a sudden, after about a minute, the car blew up.
Oh, geez. but this is in
the
a
message
bag.
Was there.
Yeah, bag
you know?
with your name on it. Then.
And I gave it to Wellington and just forgot about it. Tried to.
Right. And you mentioned Judge Evans, and that reminded me, we were talking again before the show started about how, you know, when you're growing older, you know, you start losing some of the people that you.
It's pretty traumatic for me.
Yeah.
Traumatic.
I think
was in the Army with Jim.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we were in the Army together. We spent 2 years together, and I had a couple other friends who were in the Army with me, and they were my age, even a little younger than me, and they've all passed on. And it makes you realize the whole lifetime is like a day. You wake up one day and you're old. You went through everything, and it's over with. I mean, not over with, but it's changed radically.
Right.
I look in the mirror and I say, "Who is that guy?" You know?
I'm looking at this picture of me 20 years ago. Yeah, who is this now? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And psychologically, I'm in extra innings. I realize that I'm. That's why I don't care about retiring. And I don't even do this for money. I've been pretty good financially. I took care of properly everything. I saved money. But I like to do something and still try to be productive, and I have a lot of experiences. And I could be a consultant, I think, maybe, and go other places. But I like Liberty. I lived there, and they're doing better now, and I'm thankful for that. Belmont Avenue is all filled up now. At one time, there was hardly anything there.
Right, from... Well, Liberty starts, around the hospital area?
Yeah,
Gypsy?
Gypsy, and goes all the way
up
to near Vienna. Goes out past Tibbetts Wick.
Right.
We got a $31 million project, Shepherd of the Valley on Tibbetts Wick, that's going to start pretty soon. So that'll be several hundred employees. That's going to start pretty soon. Others as well.
I mean, that is one good thing about an older area, growing older. You have jobs in healthcare, and you know.
The healthcare is a big deal,
right?
You know, and it's expensive now, and you can see what's going on in Washington. I don't know where they're going. They seem to be on a collision course, but. We spend a lot of time, I visit every business, mostly with Jody Stoyak, who is a real active person. Yeah, she's a trustee there. And we filled up pretty much Belmont Avenue, but we don't take for granted little businesses that come in. You know, we don't have Austintown. They did a beautiful job out here. The trustees, over the years, I've known them all, and they all did a good job. And you have I-80 and 46, which is a real generator of activity. Like,
well, yeah, I was just thinking of that with my wife. We were driving, coming up back from Columbus, and there's news about these, like Amazon, these companies where you buy stuff over the internet.
Yeah.
And they're basically, you could see the decline in retail, like at malls and things, but it's all this online stuff. Well, they've got to have these warehouses where, yeah, people, you know, they store all the things and then they mail it out.
Deliver it.
And that would be nice if we can attract somebody like
Amazon. We got to get something really big there because we have a good interstate through the valley. Actually, Liberty's really lucky. We have 80 going right in the middle.
You have 80 and
7-Eleven on Gypsy and 11 on
Turnpike.
Tibbetts Wick. And that's succeeding. The problem I had, everybody had for the most part, when the banks went bankrupt in 08, there was no development for 5 years. It was hard to get any money.
No money.
And then we had the Metroplex that was empty. We have a good owner in there, Ron Anderson, and he's putting millions in it. And we're going to have a lot of good announcements come out of there.
Okay. Well, again, we're talking with Pat Ungaro. Pat is currently with Liberty Township, but of course, for years, you were the longest-serving mayor, right?
Yeah, 14 years.
14 years. And we're just kind of talking about both now, but also reminiscing about Youngstown and you know, some of the history of the area. You know, I'm just fascinated. You talked about your relationship with the Democratic Party back when you were mayor. How you were able to, because of the party, you know, you have the precinct committee people, and theoretically they're getting out the vote. How you were able to be an independent.
You know how I think the biggest thing was I was a head football coach at Rayen High School and a guidance counselor there. Then I moved to South for 10 years. And there was 2,000 students in the school. I had a lot of social connection.
Oh, before Facebook.
yeah. And that, there's no doubt about it. That's why I kept winning. And I was winning good after a while. So that helped me, and that could have hurt me if I didn't have a good reputation in schools. It would have probably hurt me. But that helped me. I was thinking of a couple historical things that affect Austintown and North Jackson. Lake Milton. I was mayor when they wanted to put $10 million. They wanted me to fix Lake Milton. Now, we don't make any money outside of Youngstown. We don't get no income tax. And they were beating me up so much. One day I came home from Columbus. I told the water commissioner, let the water out of Lake Milton. and it was like a dynamite bomb went off. And but I felt this way. I couldn't afford to do it. It was dangerous. There's a lot of politicians and millionaires that have cottages all around the lake. If I take the water out, they're not going to want to see a swamp. They're going to use their influence to get the money to fix the dam.
From the state.
From the state. And that took about a month. And we got the $10 million. And since I had him hooked into that, that's when I agreed to convert it into a state park.
Yeah, and in fact, just this week, I guess it was 100 years anniversary for Lake Milton. But that's interesting, that story about how, you know, again,
I had terminal. I got killed politically. I even remember going out to North Jackson and speaking in high school. They were so upset with me. I said, you got to be patient. In the long run, it's going to work out.
It'll work out.
It'll work out.
I just admire, I got to say, that, you know, your tenacity, because, I mean, a lot of people who tried to stand up to what was going on, you know, they just gave up after a while.
They gave up or compromised a little bit. I'm not saying they were all thieves, but they wanted to get along to get some things done. Or I had a different attitude. I didn't want nothing to do with them. And they came my way eventually. Like, we bought all the buildings downtown 20 years ago. Bought every building downtown for $2 million. And look, you control the property, now you could develop it. Today, I was downtown a week ago to pick up my daughter, and I couldn't believe it was Youngstown.
Right.
It's turned around that much. Not there yet, but it's turned around.
Right.
And those are the things that give me satisfaction that I like to write about, maybe. Even if I'm just emotionally letting go of some of that energy that, I got beat up on at the time.
Do you still talk with people that were in your administration?
I had great people.
Yeah.
Wellington, I felt so great with him. The mob did not want him. Gary Kubik, Ed Romero, Bob Millich, Cheryl Waite, they're all judges today. Dick Marsico was my engineer. He's passed on, but he was the county engineer. I run into people, or sometimes I meet people, and we just have lunch together and we talk. Not a lot, not as much as I like, but a lot, enough for me anyway, to make contact with those emotional relationships I had at that time with people.
Well, I learned something earlier when you talked about, so you get an Apple phone, you just speak into it. Is that what it is? It goes right to the computer.
Incredible.
And then you could print that out.
Just print it out. That way
that's a lot better than
I could just talk about what I think about issues, and it could be anything, and it might not even go together, but if you think while you're thinking about or talking about it, you type it off, somewhere along you put it together, and you have something. The problem I have is I know so many people that were involved, that were friends, they were lawyers. I can't put names to this because I'm not looking to hurt anybody. Right. But the overall concept of everything I did, I think, is worthy of putting it together. Even if one of my great-grandchildren or grandchildren somewhere along the line want to read it.
Right.
Or so maybe nobody will want to read it.
No, I think that I'm sure your family will be interested.
Yeah.
We only have time for maybe one more question. I was thinking about, again, currently the Mahoning County, Mahoning Valley, Youngstown, how do you think our attitude is towards things like...
It's gotten significantly better.
It's better, you think?
Yeah, significantly better. Labor's better. The political climate's better. I think we got rid of that cancer in our community, maybe not 100%. That's helping out a lot. We're still regional. We're too many communities, and we're fighting each other a little bit sometime, whether it's water or something.
County line.
Yeah, the county lines.
Yeah.
We need to do more joint development activity where maybe Austintown and Youngstown get together, or maybe Austintown and somewhere else, or Liberty and Warren, or Liberty and Girard.
Right.
We can't get past that right now, but that's, I think, really, really, really critical that we do consolidate a lot of our political activity.
Right. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on to talk with us.
Thanks.
We'll keep an eye out. Maybe it'll be a book soon. We'll see.
I am going to do it. I mean,
Okay.
it is going to get done. It just goes to how far I want to go. I want to make it credible and legitimate and talk about everything from the good times to the bad times to the corruption. The whole thing, and in my experience, my wife has been great through this whole process. She hung in there with me when it was pretty rough for a while.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I imagine,
So, but I made it.
Well, we're glad you're here, and again, continued luck and liberty,
Thank you.
with your non-retirement.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, we've been talking with Pat Ungaro. This is, you've been watching Senior Focus. I'm your host, Bill Adams. Again, thanks to Greg Roten from Armstrong's Channel 20 and 100. If you missed any of the show, you could always go to On Demand, or Greg puts the shows up on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Senior Focus Armstrong Cable in the search. Also, thanks to the Public Library of Youngstown, Mahoning County for their use of their meeting rooms. And until next time, thanks to you for watching.